For centuries, explorers have dreamed of finding a secret route through the icy, inhospitable Arctic, a fabled sea path that would unlock the mysteries of the northern world and open direct trade with the East. This dream of a Northwest Passage, a sea route connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the Arctic Circle, has captured the imagination and ambitions of European explorers since the Age of Discovery. Spurred on by tales of the Orient's wealth and the possibility of a shorter, safer route to the treasures of Asia, nations and explorers alike were drawn to this icy frontier. This ambition led to one of the most dangerous and tragic pursuits in maritime history, inspiring centuries of exploration and filling Arctic waters with ships, stories, and secrets frozen in time. The allure of the Northwest Passage was rooted in the wealth and influence it promised. During the 16th and 17th centuries, European demand for Asian goods, spices, silks, and exotic minerals was growing rapidly, but reaching these riches required a perilous journey. Sailing around Africa's Cape of Good Hope or South America's Cape Horn was dangerous and time-consuming, with rough waters and treacherous weather. A northern passage offered the tantalizing possibility of bypassing these hazardous routes altogether. For England, Spain, France, and the Netherlands, nations eager to expand their influence, the passage represented not just a shorter path to wealth, but also a gateway to geopolitical power. The call to find the Northwest Passage resonated with explorers whose hearts yearned for the unknown. Men like John Cabot and Martin Frobisher braved the ice-choked waters of the North, driven by a vision of themselves as pioneers. To them, discovering the Northwest Passage would mean joining the ranks of history's most celebrated adventurers, claiming uncharted lands and, in the process, securing their legacies. But the passage they sought was elusive, a ghostly, shifting path blocked by relentless ice, harsh weather, and unimaginable distances. Each expedition into these forbidding waters was a gamble, a test of endurance, skill, and, perhaps above all, unyielding courage. The Arctic is an environment of extremes, where the landscape shifts between frozen wasteland and raging sea, and where daylight can last for months or vanish for just as long. Navigating this realm required not only resilience but a willingness to embrace the unknown. Early explorers did not have maps to guide them, only vague outlines of distant coastlines and the accounts of native Inuit peoples who had thrived in the region for generations. Inuit communities lived in harmony with the land, moving with the rhythms of ice and ocean, hunting and surviving in a way that the European explorers could barely comprehend. While some explorers respected and learned from the Inuit, others dismissed their knowledge, choosing instead to rely on the methods they knew. It was a decision that, for many, would prove costly. The search for the Northwest Passage is filled with tales of hardship and heroism, of men who braved the cold and the isolation, sometimes finding only frostbitten limbs and frozen waters in return. Ships became trapped in ice for months, or even years, their crews forced to endure brutal conditions as they waited for the summer thaw. Supplies ran low, scurvy took its toll, and the sense of desolation in the vast, frozen expanse of the Arctic could break even the strongest spirits. Yet, despite these challenges, the dream of discovering the passage endured, driving explorers to return again and again to confront the Arctic's icy grip. One of the most famous expeditions in this quest was that of Sir John Franklin in 1845. Known as the Franklin Expedition, this journey was intended to be the defining mission that would finally chart the Northwest Passage. Franklin's ships, the HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, were among the most advanced vessels of their time, equipped to withstand the Arctic cold and outfitted with the provisions and tools necessary for an extended voyage. But Franklin and his crew never returned. Instead, they became one of the most haunting mysteries of the Arctic, their fate unknown until traces of their journey were discovered many years later. The Franklin expedition symbolized both the lure and the danger of the Northwest Passage, leaving a legacy that would captivate and puzzle historians, archaeologists, and explorers for generations. The Northwest Passage remained an elusive, almost mythical route for centuries, as each failed expedition seemed to affirm the Arctic's defiance of human ambition. Yet the losses and hardships only fueled the mystery, with each disappearance adding a new layer to the legend. Eventually, the desire for glory gave way to a greater respect for the Arctic's power, as explorers began to understand that the Northwest Passage was not a place to be conquered, but a realm to be respected. In the early 20th century, the Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen would finally achieve what so many before him had dreamed of, navigating the entirety of the Northwest Passage. Yet, by this time, the focus of exploration had shifted from conquest to scientific understanding. Amundsen's success marked the end of an era, a testament to human resilience and the adaptability that made Arctic exploration possible. Today, the legend of the Northwest Passage endures, reminding us of the courage and ambition that drove generations of explorers into the unknown. Though the Arctic's icy barriers have softened with climate change, revealing the waters that once thwarted countless expeditions, the passage retains its aura of mystery and danger. It serves as a symbol of humanity's desire to explore, to discover, and to push the boundaries of what is known, even when that pursuit comes at great cost. As we embark on this journey into the history of the Northwest Passage, we'll explore the lives of those who sought its icy corridors, from the early pioneers who saw it as a golden opportunity, to the tragic tale of Sir John Franklin and the triumph of Roald Amundsen. This is a story of discovery, endurance, and the enduring pull of the unknown. A reminder that some mysteries are pursued not only for the rewards they promise, but for the courage they inspire. Chapter 1. The Early Explorers. The dream of discovering a Northwest Passage began as a tantalizing vision in the minds of Europe's boldest navigators. As tales of Asia's riches, spices, silk, and gold, reached European shores, kings and queens longed for a direct route to these fabled lands. In the 16th century, the Portuguese and Spanish had established routes to the east by sailing around the southern tips of Africa and South America. But for England, France, and the Netherlands, a different route beckoned, one that could be found by heading north through the icy Arctic waters. They believed this passage, though hidden behind walls of ice and dangerous seas, would provide a swift and profitable connection to the Orient. It was a route that, if discovered, promised wealth and prestige beyond imagination. In 1497, one of the earliest explorers to venture toward this northern passage was John Cabot, an Italian navigator commissioned by England's King Henry VII. Cabot was inspired by the success of Christopher Columbus, who had discovered a route to the New World by sailing west. Like Columbus, Cabot believed that by sailing west he could reach Asia. However, his voyage took him northward, where he encountered the shores of what is now Newfoundland. While he did not find the Northwest Passage, Cabot's journey opened the door to further exploration, setting England's sights on the northern regions of the Atlantic and sowing the seeds for future expeditions in search of this elusive route. For Cabot, the northern seas were uncharted and unpredictable, a realm of towering icebergs and frigid waters. Unlike the warmer climes of the south, the Arctic regions demanded resilience, both physical and mental, from those who dared to cross them. Cabot's voyage was, in many ways, a prelude to the trials that future explorers would face, challenges that would test their endurance and their very survival. Cabot returned to England with reports of vast, unclaimed lands rich in resources, fueling the imaginations of those who would follow in his wake. However, the mystery of a northern passage to Asia remained unsolved, pushing future explorers to seek out what Cabot could not find. Martin Frobisher was one of the next major figures to take up the quest for the Northwest Passage. Born into a family of seafarers, Frobisher had spent his early years navigating rough waters and studying maps that hinted at a hidden path through the Arctic. By the 1570s, England was eager to challenge Spain's dominance over global trade, and the allure of a northern passage offered the perfect opportunity to gain influence. Frobisher, with his bold nature and reputation for fearlessness, seemed the ideal candidate for such a venture. In 1576, with the backing of Queen Elizabeth I, Frobisher set sail for the north aboard a small fleet of ships. His mission was not just to find a route to Asia, but also to claim any wealth he encountered for the English crown. The voyage into the Arctic was perilous, fraught with freezing temperatures, dense fog, and unpredictable ice flows. The crew encountered towering icebergs, the sound of their massive formations creaking and cracking as they drifted through the frigid waters. For the men aboard Frobisher's ships, it was a voyage into the unknown, a battle against nature that demanded every ounce of courage and resilience. Frobisher's expedition brought him to the icy waters of what is now the Canadian Arctic. There, he believed he had found the entrance to the fabled Northwest Passage. But as he explored the area further, he realized that the path he had hoped would lead to Asia was actually a bay, later named Frobisher Bay in his honor. Despite this, Frobisher's discovery was celebrated, and he returned to England with samples of black ore, which he believed to contain gold. Though the ore ultimately proved worthless, his return ignited a frenzy of excitement and curiosity about the Arctic, inspiring future expeditions. Undeterred, Frobisher embarked on 2 more voyages to the Arctic, each more challenging than the last. The harsh conditions tested the resolve of his men, who battled fierce winds, freezing temperatures, and the ever-present danger of ice. The Arctic landscape was unforgiving, with blizzards that reduced visibility to near zero and ice flows that threatened to crush ships like fragile shells. Yet, despite the failure to find a passage, Frobisher's efforts were significant. His voyages contributed to England's growing knowledge of the Arctic, and cemented his place in the annals of exploration as one of the first to attempt to chart these remote, icy waters. These early explorers faced not only the challenges of the Arctic environment, but also the limitations of their own technology. Their ships were designed for temperate waters, not for the crushing ice and relentless cold of the north. Navigational tools were rudimentary, and maps of the Arctic were incomplete, leaving these men to rely heavily on instinct, bravery, and the hope that the Arctic would eventually yield to their ambition. But while the Arctic remained uncharted and mysterious, its harsh conditions only deepened the intrigue, feeding the desire for exploration and the belief that a hidden route lay just beyond the ice. Although neither Cabot nor Frobisher found the Northwest Passage, their expeditions laid the groundwork for future voyages. They marked the beginning of Europe's obsession with conquering the Arctic, an obsession that would lead countless ships into the frozen seas in the centuries that followed. These early explorers, in their courage and determination, became legends in their own right, remembered not for their failures, but for their willingness to confront the unknown. As we move forward in our journey, we'll follow the explorers who built on Cabot and Frobisher's legacy, pushing further into the Arctic's icy grip in search of the Northwest Passage. From the tragic disappearance of Sir John Franklin's expedition to the survival stories of later explorers, the quest for the Northwest Passage is a tale of endurance, resilience, and an unyielding desire to achieve the impossible. Chapter 2. The Quest of Sir John Franklin. By the mid-19th century, the quest for the Northwest Passage had captured Europe's imagination, evolving from a daring ambition into a test of human endurance and exploration. Among the many figures drawn to this icy frontier was Sir John Franklin, a British naval officer and seasoned explorer known for his resilience and experience in the Arctic. With over 3 decades of exploration behind him, Franklin was an ideal candidate to lead what was hoped to be the definitive expedition to map the Northwest Passage, a journey that, for him, would be both the pinnacle of his career and his final mysterious legacy. In 1845, Franklin set sail from England with 2 ships, the HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, outfitted with the latest advancements in Arctic exploration. The ships were marvels of engineering, specially reinforced to withstand the crushing Arctic ice and equipped with steam engines for added power. The British Admiralty spared no expense in preparing this expedition, providing the ships with enough provisions to last 3 years, ample supplies, and a carefully selected crew of 129 men. Each crew member was chosen for their skills, experience, and fortitude, prepared for the grueling conditions of Arctic life. Franklin's mission was clear. He was to navigate the elusive Northwest Passage and finally chart a continuous route from the Atlantic to the Pacific. The expedition left England with high hopes, and the public followed its progress with eager anticipation, believing that Franklin would succeed where so many others had failed. But as the HMS Erebus and HMS Terror vanished into the Arctic, the crew faced a reality far different from the idealistic visions of England. In the unforgiving world of ice and snow, the challenges they encountered would soon transform their journey of exploration into one of survival. As the expedition pushed further into the Arctic, the ships became trapped in pack ice near King William Island, a desolate, frozen land far from any hope of rescue. The ice closed in around the ships, locking them in place, effectively cutting the men off from the rest of the world. Franklin and his crew were accustomed to hardship, but the Arctic's extreme isolation tested them in unimaginable ways. Months passed, and the ships remained encased in ice, forcing the crew to endure temperatures that plunged to unbearable lows and darkness that stretched through the long Arctic winter. With each passing day, the provisions dwindled, and scurvy, a disease caused by lack of vitamin C, began to ravage the men. The effects were swift and brutal, weakening their bodies and minds, leaving them vulnerable in an already hostile environment. As their health deteriorated, the men were forced to adapt to desperate measures for survival. Though they rationed what supplies they had left, it was clear that their situation was growing increasingly dire. Franklin himself fell ill and eventually perished, leaving his crew to face the Arctic's harsh elements without their leader. Following Franklin's death, Francis Crozier and James Fitzjames took command, leading the men in a final, desperate attempt to escape the ice. The crew abandoned the ships, embarking on a grueling march southward across the barren landscape in the hope of finding open water or encountering a whaling ship that could carry them home. This journey was one of unimaginable hardship, a battle against freezing temperatures, starvation, and their own exhaustion. Some men succumbed to the elements along the way, their bodies left behind as silent markers of their struggle. Back in England, months passed without word from Franklin's expedition. Concern turned to alarm, and by 1848, the Admiralty launched multiple search missions, desperate to locate the lost explorers. As search parties combed the Arctic, they found only scattered remnants of the expedition, a few abandoned campsites, bits of equipment, and human remains. Each discovery added to the haunting mystery of Franklin's fate, revealing a tragic tale of endurance and loss, but offering little explanation for why such a well-prepared crew had been overtaken by the Arctic's grip. As more artifacts were uncovered, they began to reveal fragments of the crew's final days. A note was found in a cairn on King William Island, written by Franklin's officers, briefly describing the conditions and the death of their leader. It was a heartbreaking glimpse into their desperation, a farewell from men who had once held such high hopes. Yet, despite the discovery of these artifacts, the full story remained elusive, locked in the icy silence of the Arctic. The loss of Franklin and his men cast a shadow over Arctic exploration, transforming the Northwest Passage from a hopeful goal into a chilling reminder of the dangers that lay hidden in the frozen North. Over the years, new search efforts continued, each seeking to unravel the mystery of Franklin's expedition. Inuit communities shared their oral histories, describing encounters with sick and weakened men who had come from the trapped ships. These accounts painted a picture of survival against impossible odds and offered valuable clues, yet the fate of the majority of the crew remained unknown. Victorian forensics provided some insights, and later, modern archaeology would shed more light. But the story of Franklin's expedition continued to captivate and baffle historians. In recent years, the discovery of the wrecks of the HMS Erebus and HMS Terror on the Arctic seafloor has finally offered some answers, but also posed new questions. The ships, remarkably well preserved in the cold Arctic waters, were found resting miles apart, hidden in remote locations that the ice had kept secret for over a century. The Erebus and Terror tell their own story, one of bravery, suffering, and the unbreakable spirit of the men who sailed them. The fate of Franklin and his crew remains one of the most haunting mysteries of Arctic exploration, a testament to the extremes of human endurance and the risks inherent in the search for knowledge. Though Franklin did not live to see his dream of the Northwest Passage realized, his legacy endures, a reminder of the passion, sacrifice, and courage that defined this tragic quest. The Northwest Passage continued to lure explorers into its icy waters, but Franklin's tale stood as a sobering warning, a reminder of the price that some pay in the pursuit of discovery. As we move forward, we'll explore the trials of the men who came after Franklin, the survival tactics they employed, and their encounters with the native Inuit people who had mastered life in the Arctic. For, while Franklin's expedition may have ended in tragedy, the dream of the Northwest Passage was far from over, and its legacy would continue to inspire and test the courage of those who dared to chase it. Chapter 3. The Harsh Realities of the Arctic. The Arctic, with its vast expanse of ice and unyielding cold, is a region of haunting beauty and relentless brutality. For the European explorers who ventured into its frozen heart in search of the Northwest Passage, the Arctic was unlike anything they had ever experienced. It was a world that defied the expectations and preparations of even the most seasoned sailors. To survive in the Arctic required not only physical endurance, but a willingness to accept the unknown and adapt to its demands. For those who clung to familiar ways, the consequences were often deadly. The Arctic winter was one of the greatest challenges these explorers faced. Temperatures could plunge to bone-chilling lows, freezing exposed skin within seconds and transforming breath into clouds of ice. Snow blanketed the landscape, and as the sun disappeared for months on end, the explorers found themselves engulfed in a darkness that seemed almost supernatural. For men used to the temperate climates of Europe, this darkness was both disorienting and disheartening. Morale was difficult to maintain in such conditions, and the endless night weighed heavily on both mind and body. In this season of perpetual cold, time itself seemed to freeze, leaving the explorers trapped in an unending cycle of isolation and despair. Ice was an ever-present, formidable enemy. Pack ice drifted and shifted, sometimes trapping ships within its relentless grip and holding them in place for months or even years. Even the strongest, most well-prepared vessels could be crushed by the power of the ice, their wooden frames splintering under the immense pressure. Navigating through the Arctic waters required skill, patience, and a fair measure of luck, as ice floes could form seemingly out of nowhere, blocking paths that had been clear just hours before. For those on the trapped ships, the sound of ice creaking and cracking around them was a constant reminder of their vulnerability. Supplies were another challenge. The expeditions often carried enough food and provisions to last several years, yet the monotony and limited variety took a toll on the crew's health. Scurvy, a disease caused by a lack of vitamin C, was a common affliction, leaving men weak, delirious, and, in many cases, unable to survive the harsh conditions. Without access to fresh fruits and vegetables, the explorers were vulnerable to this debilitating illness. Some expeditions brought preserved lemon or lime juice as a preventative measure, but inadequate storage and unfamiliarity with Arctic logistics meant that these supplies often deteriorated before they could be used effectively. As their conditions worsened, European explorers frequently encountered Inuit communities who had lived in the Arctic for thousands of years. The Inuit possessed an invaluable knowledge of survival in the Arctic's harshest environments. They had developed tools and techniques that allowed them to thrive where others struggled to survive. The Inuit wore layers of furs, carefully crafted to trap body heat and protect against the piercing winds. They used sleds to move swiftly across the ice, designed to navigate the Arctic terrain with efficiency and ease. Their diets were rich in fresh seal, whale, and fish, providing them with essential nutrients and preventing the scurvy that plagued the explorers. For some, these encounters with the Inuit were life-saving. The Inuit taught them how to construct shelters that insulated against the cold, to use animal fat for warmth, and to hunt and fish in the icy waters. But for others, pride and a sense of superiority led them to disregard this indigenous knowledge, relying instead on their European methods. This rejection of local expertise was often fatal, as the Arctic's merciless conditions left little room for error. The Inuits' lifestyle, perfectly attuned to the rhythms of the Arctic, was a testament to the strength of adaptation and respect for the environment. A lesson many explorers learned too late. In addition to battling the cold and scurvy, the explorers faced intense psychological challenges. The isolation of the Arctic could break even the strongest of men. Months without sunlight and the monotony of life on an icebound ship wore on the crew's mental health. Without access to news from the outside world, with no sense of time beyond the slow rotation of the seasons, the men began to suffer from despair and a condition they called Arctic hysteria. This affliction, a blend of paranoia, depression, and anxiety, became a constant threat in the long, frozen winters. Some men lost the will to continue, their spirits defeated by the endless expanse of white, and the knowledge that home lay countless miles away. In these dire conditions, even the smallest mistakes could be deadly. Frostbite was a common threat, as exposed skin froze almost instantly in the Arctic wind. To survive, the men had to maintain a strict regimen, ensuring that their clothing was properly layered and that any exposed skin was covered. But exhaustion, combined with the harsh conditions, made vigilance difficult to maintain, and for those who succumbed to frostbite, amputations were often the only remedy. Blizzards could strike without warning, leaving men stranded just a few yards from safety. Snow blindness was another hazard, as the glare from the sun reflected off the snow and ice, damaging unprotected eyes. Despite the difficulties, some explorers managed to carve out temporary lives in the Arctic, learning to endure and, in some cases, even thrive. They built makeshift settlements, hunted seals, and fished through the ice, adapting to the rhythm of the Arctic seasons. But these settlements were fragile, their success dependent on the goodwill of nature and the resilience of the men. Many expeditions became desperate, forced to ration supplies to the point of starvation, leading some to resort to unimaginable measures in their fight for survival. Over the centuries, the Arctic tested the limits of human endurance. It demanded respect and adaptation from all who entered its domain. The expeditions that survived were those that learned to work with the environment, not against it. They accepted the ice, the cold, and the isolation as constant companions, embracing the same patience and resilience as the Inuit, who had mastered these conditions over generations. The explorers who succeeded understood that the Arctic could not be conquered. It could only be respected. As we move forward, we will explore the theories and discoveries that emerged from these tragic expeditions, as scientists and historians pieced together clues left behind by the lost crews. These findings would shape our understanding of the Arctic and shed new light on the perils faced by those who sought to unlock the secrets of the Northwest Passage. Through their struggles and sacrifices, these explorers paved the way for a deeper knowledge of the Arctic and left a legacy that continues to inspire the spirit of exploration. Chapter 4. Theories and Discoveries. As the years passed, the mystery of the Northwest Passage and the fate of explorers like Franklin continued to haunt the minds of the public, historians, and adventurers alike. Determined to uncover the truth, new expeditions were launched in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, aiming to retrace the paths of those who had vanished. These missions were not only about solving the riddle of the Northwest Passage, they became quests to recover lost lives, to honor the sacrifices made, and to understand the conditions that had claimed them. This chapter reveals the gradual unfolding of that mystery through theories, discoveries, and breakthroughs in science and archaeology. Shortly after Sir John Franklin's expedition vanished, Victorian search missions began uncovering eerie clues that hinted at the crew's final days. Notes and artifacts left in stone cairns described a group of men stranded on the desolate shores of King William Island, weakened by disease, hunger, and exposure to the elements. Among the most haunting finds was a message detailing the death of Franklin and the crew's plan to abandon their icebound ships. The note was brief, but offered a glimpse into their desperate struggle, describing how they intended to march south in hopes of survival. Yet, the unforgiving Arctic provided no sanctuary, and one by one, Franklin's men succumbed to the relentless cold and starvation. Further clues emerged from the accounts of the Inuit, who passed down oral histories of encounters with the explorers. They spoke of sick, emaciated men wandering the ice, struggling to survive against the brutal Arctic landscape. These Inuit stories were often disregarded by early searchers, dismissed as unreliable. However, modern historians and anthropologists have come to recognize the value of these oral histories. They offered critical insights into the explorers' final days, helping to piece together a story that Victorian forensics could not fully explain. The Inuit described finding abandoned camps, the remains of men frozen in their tracks, and ships trapped by ice, creating a haunting picture of the explorers' last stand against nature. In recent years, advances in forensic science have provided new ways to analyze the remains of Franklin's crew and those of other lost expeditions. Testing conducted on bones and other artifacts has revealed shocking insights into the hardships faced by these men. Many of the remains showed signs of scurvy and lead poisoning, likely caused by the metal cans used to store food, which leached lead into their contents. These conditions would have weakened the men, impairing their judgment and reducing their chances of survival in the harsh Arctic. Some historians speculate that the lead poisoning may have caused confusion, fatigue, and a decline in morale, compounding their suffering and contributing to the decisions that ultimately led to their demise. As the search for answers continued, modern archaeology brought new revelations. In 2014, after nearly 2 centuries of searching, a team of Canadian researchers discovered the wreck of the HMS Erebus on the seafloor near King William Island. The ship was remarkably well preserved, its wooden hull protected by the cold waters of the Arctic. The discovery of the Erebus was a breakthrough, providing a tangible link to the men who had vanished and sparking renewed interest in the lost expedition. Artifacts recovered from the wreck offered new clues about the crew's final days, including personal items, navigation tools, and parts of the ship's structure. Each piece painted a vivid picture of life aboard the Erebus, as well as the painstaking measures taken by the crew to endure their prolonged entrapment in the ice. 2 years later, the HMS Terror was also found, resting in eerie silence at the bottom of the sea. The Terror, like the Erebus, was preserved in astonishing detail. Researchers found that the ship's hatches were still sealed, and many objects within its cabins appeared undisturbed, as if frozen in time. This discovery was a testament to the harsh reality faced by the men on board, as well as a tribute to their resilience. The Terror's discovery shed light on the potential routes the crew had attempted to navigate, providing insight into their efforts to free themselves from the ice and find a way back to safety. Together, the Erebus and Terror represent 2 of the most remarkable archaeological finds of the 21st century, offering historians and scientists unprecedented access to the story of Franklin's final journey. The wrecks have not only revealed a wealth of physical artifacts, but have also allowed researchers to explore the impact of extreme conditions on the human psyche. Inside the cabins, researchers found tools, scientific instruments, and even personal items like books and clothing, providing a sense of the lives these men led as they faced the Arctic's ruthless embrace. Forensic examination of the bones recovered near the wreck sites showed evidence of advanced scurvy and malnutrition, as well as signs of frostbite and hypothermia, each mark telling the tragic tale of their prolonged suffering. One of the most disturbing findings has been evidence suggesting that the crew may have resorted to cannibalism in their final days. Knife marks on bones recovered from King William Island indicate that, in their desperation, some of Franklin's men likely turned to extreme measures to survive. This theory, though difficult to confirm definitively, has stirred intense discussion among historians, as it reveals the unimaginable lengths to which these men were driven by starvation and isolation. The possibility of cannibalism adds a haunting layer to their story, underscoring the Arctic's power to push even the most disciplined and courageous men to their limits. The discoveries of the Erebus and Terror have deepened our understanding of the Arctic's harshness and the lengths to which explorers went to claim the Northwest Passage. They have shown that while these men were well prepared by the standards of their time, the Arctic's challenges often exceeded the limits of human endurance. The relics recovered from these ships have revealed a complex story, one of heroism, suffering, and the indomitable will of those who sought to conquer nature's most unforgiving realm. Today, the search for the Northwest Passage has taken on a new form. Advances in technology have made it possible to traverse routes that once claimed countless lives. Climate change has gradually opened previously impenetrable ice, making the once impossible route accessible, though still dangerous. Satellites, underwater drones, and other modern tools allow researchers to explore the Arctic more safely. And yet, despite these advancements, the Northwest Passage remains a testament to the resilience and sacrifice of those early explorers. In piecing together the story of Franklin and other explorers, scientists and historians have created a legacy of knowledge that honors the courage of those who ventured into the Arctic's icy grip. The discoveries of the Erebus and Terror are not merely archaeological achievements. They are a tribute to human endurance, a reminder of the risks taken in the name of exploration. The Northwest Passage remains a symbol of humanity's relentless pursuit of discovery, an emblem of our quest to uncover the unknown, no matter the cost. As we move forward, we will turn to the expedition that finally succeeded in navigating the Northwest Passage. Roald Amundsen's journey in the early 20th century marked a turning point in Arctic exploration, one that transformed the dreams of early explorers into a reality. In his voyage, we find the culmination of centuries of ambition, courage, and sacrifice, as well as a testament to the enduring allure of the Arctic. Chapter 5. The Passage Found. Roald Amundsen's Triumph. By the dawn of the 20th century, the dream of discovering the Northwest Passage had claimed countless lives and had transformed from a route of promised wealth into a test of human endurance. Many believed the elusive passage was unreachable, a ghostly promise buried beneath layers of ice. But for one man, the Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen, the Arctic held an allure that could not be ignored. Where others saw defeat, Amundsen saw a challenge, and where others had been conquered by the ice, he saw a path. In 1906, Amundsen achieved what generations of explorers had attempted and failed, successfully navigating the Northwest Passage and cementing his place in history. Amundsen was no stranger to harsh conditions. His early expeditions had taken him to the cold reaches of Antarctica, where he learned invaluable lessons in survival. Unlike many European explorers before him, Amundsen respected and sought to understand the Arctic, approaching it not with an attitude of conquest, but with a reverence for its power. To him, survival in the Arctic required more than grit. It demanded a profound knowledge of the land, the sea, and the skills of those who had mastered it long before Europeans arrived. This respect for the Arctic would become a cornerstone of his approach to navigating the Northwest Passage. In 1903, Amundsen set out aboard the Gjöa, a small and sturdy vessel that was well suited for Arctic travel. His expedition was not lavishly funded nor heavily staffed. Amundsen understood that simplicity and adaptability were crucial, choosing a small crew and outfitting the Gjöa with only what was essential. His aim was not to overwhelm the Arctic with grand designs, but to slip through its icy grip with as little resistance as possible. As he ventured into the Northwest Passage, he knew he would face formidable challenges: icebergs, shifting pack ice, and relentless Arctic winds. Yet, his approach set him apart from his predecessors. He studied the indigenous Inuit people, observing their techniques for hunting, navigating, and surviving in the harsh environment, and he adopted their methods of travel, clothing, and sustenance. Unlike the larger, heavily loaded ships that had previously attempted the passage, the Gjöa was nimble, able to navigate narrow inlets and shallow waters. This adaptability proved invaluable, allowing Amundsen and his crew to move through waters that had trapped larger vessels in ice. As they progressed, they relied on Inuit guidance, adopting their techniques for clothing and food preservation. They wore fur clothing instead of the heavy wool coats common in European expeditions, allowing for better insulation and freedom of movement. They learned to rely on the rich, fatty meats of seals and other Arctic animals to prevent scurvy and provide the essential nutrients needed to endure the cold. Amundsen's crew spent 2 winters in the Arctic, living alongside the Inuit and observing their ways. During this time, Amundsen's fascination with the Arctic deepened. He not only sought a route through the passage, but also studied the magnetic North Pole, advancing scientific understanding of the region. This scientific curiosity and willingness to learn became hallmarks of his journey. For Amundsen, the Northwest Passage was more than a mere geographical challenge. It was an opportunity to understand a place that had defeated so many. By respecting the land and the wisdom of those who inhabited it, Amundsen forged a path forward where others had been stopped. Finally, after nearly 3 years of enduring the Arctic's brutal winters and treacherous ice flows, Amundsen and his crew emerged victorious. In 1906, they completed the Northwest Passage, becoming the first to successfully navigate from the Atlantic to the Pacific through the Arctic. This achievement marked a turning point in the history of exploration. Amundsen's journey had proven that the passage existed, and that, with the right approach, it could be navigated. For Europe, his success was monumental, marking the culmination of a centuries-long pursuit that had claimed the lives of so many. But for Amundsen, it was a testament to the power of adaptability, respect, and the spirit of true exploration. Amundsen's triumph was not only a victory for geographical discovery, but also a lesson in the importance of humility and learning. Unlike many explorers before him, he did not attempt to impose his methods on the Arctic. Instead, he adapted to it, allowing his approach to be shaped by the environment and the people who had lived there for generations. His success demonstrated that the Arctic could be traversed not by force but by understanding, a lesson that challenged the conventional notions of exploration that had guided European expeditions for centuries. The Northwest Passage, long considered a fabled route, was now a reality. Yet, even with Amundsen's achievement, the passage remained treacherous, its icy waters and shifting landscapes posing constant danger. It would be years before it became accessible enough for regular navigation, and even today, it is a route fraught with challenges. But Amundsen's journey was a testament to human resilience and adaptability, proving that the mysteries of the Arctic could be unlocked, not through conquest but through respect and patience. Roald Amundsen's successful navigation of the Northwest Passage marked the end of one chapter in Arctic exploration and the beginning of another. With his journey, he changed the way the world viewed the Arctic and set a standard for future explorers. His expedition symbolized a shift from exploration driven by imperial ambition to one inspired by scientific curiosity and a deep respect for indigenous knowledge. Amundsen's legacy lives on, a reminder that the path to discovery often lies not in imposing one's will upon the land, but in learning from it. Today, Amundsen's journey through the Northwest Passage is remembered as one of the greatest feats of exploration, a testament to his skill, adaptability, and determination. His achievement represented a triumph not only over the physical challenges of the Arctic, but over the limits of human understanding. By respecting the wisdom of the Inuit and adapting to the Arctic's demands, Amundsen achieved what others could not, forging a route through one of the world's most forbidding landscapes. As we conclude this journey through the history of the Northwest Passage, we reflect on the legacy of those who dared to challenge the Arctic's mysteries. Their stories are a reminder that exploration is as much a test of spirit as it is a pursuit of knowledge. From the tragic disappearance of Sir John Franklin to Roald Amundsen's triumph, the search for the Northwest Passage has left a legacy of courage, sacrifice, and resilience, a testament to the human desire to explore and understand even the harshest realms of our world. The legend of the Northwest Passage endures as a testament to humanity's indomitable spirit, a pursuit that began with dreams of a shortcut to riches and ended as a profound exploration of resilience and survival. From the earliest days of John Cabot and Martin Frobisher to the tragic disappearance of Sir John Franklin and the triumph of Roald Amundsen, the search for this elusive Arctic route captivated explorers, igniting within them a fierce determination to conquer one of nature's most forbidding realms. Each expedition, whether victorious or doomed, added to the rich tapestry of Arctic lore, transforming the Northwest Passage from a mere geographic curiosity into a symbol of endurance, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of discovery. For centuries, the Northwest Passage was considered a path to unimaginable wealth and influence, a key to the markets of the East that would eliminate the need to navigate the dangerous routes around Africa or South America. European empires sent their best navigators and bravest crews, believing that the Arctic could be mapped, tamed, and used as a means of expanding their power. Yet the Arctic had its own plans. The ice-bound waters, treacherous storms, and bitter cold made it clear that this was a place where survival, rather than conquest, would test the limits of human resilience. As each expedition ventured deeper into the Arctic, they learned hard lessons about its unforgiving nature. They encountered a world that could be both beautiful and brutal, where the silence of the ice was broken only by the creaking of ships locked in its grip, the howling of Arctic winds, and the quiet strength of the Inuit people, who had adapted to these conditions over thousands of years. Those who sought the Northwest Passage came face to face with challenges beyond their comprehension, and, in doing so, They revealed the limits and vulnerabilities of human ambition. In the 20th century, Roald Amundsen's successful navigation of the Northwest Passage marked a turning point. With his respect for indigenous knowledge and his willingness to adapt to the Arctic's demands, Amundsen demonstrated that survival in the North depended on humility and adaptability. He approached the Arctic not as an adversary to be conquered, but as a landscape to be understood. In his journey, Amundsen symbolized the transition from an age of imperial exploration to an era of scientific curiosity and respect for the natural world. His success was a triumph of patience and perseverance, a fitting conclusion to a saga that had claimed so many lives and had fueled Europe's imagination for centuries. Today, the Northwest Passage is more accessible than ever, as climate change slowly alters the Arctic's landscape. Shipping routes once locked in ice have begun to open, creating new challenges and opportunities. Yet, even as modern technology brings the Arctic closer, the spirit of those early explorers remains embedded in its icy waters and frozen shores. Their stories remind us that the drive to explore is woven into our nature, that the pursuit of the unknown shapes our history and pushes the boundaries of what we believe possible. The legacy of the Northwest Passage is more than a record of exploration. It is a tribute to human resilience and the willingness to face the unknown with courage. Each expedition, each sacrifice, and each triumph adds to the passage's timeless allure, inviting new generations to look to the Arctic as a place of mystery, beauty, and boundless challenge. Though the passage itself may no longer be a geographic enigma, it remains a symbol of the human spirit, a reminder that there are always new frontiers to explore, and that, in the pursuit of knowledge, we may find both the limits of our strength and the depth of our courage. As we close the chapter on this journey through history, the Northwest Passage remains a call to adventure, a story of discovery that transcends its icy waters and lives on in the hearts of those who look beyond the horizon, daring to seek the mysteries of the world.